And F1 experts at moving people around the world, and so they've quickly rescheduled flights.
1,000 people, one destination, zero certainty. While the world watched missiles streak across Middle Eastern skies, Formula One's most powerful machine wasn't on a racetrack. It was in an airport, rerouting, scrambling, surviving. Because the 2026 season didn't begin with a checkered flag. It began with a war. And right now, two questions are haunting every team principal, every sponsor, every driver on that grid. Can Formula One race 20 miles from a military strike zone? And who's really deciding whether they should? Saturday, March 1st. The United States and Israel launched joint airstrikes on Iran. Within hours, everything changed. Iran retaliated. Missiles rained across Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE. Doha Airport, shut. Dubai Airport, shut. Two of the most critical aviation arteries in the world closed overnight. And Formula One's entire circus was caught directly in the middle. As many as 2,000 team personnel suddenly had to tear up their travel plans entirely.
I'm told everyone's now locked in and arriving.
Staff from McLaren, Mercedes, Pirelli, engineers, mechanics, logistics coordinators, stranded. Rerouted through Singapore, through Hong Kong. Some flying direct from London to Perth, then a 3-hour domestic transfer just to reach Melbourne. Australian Grand Prix CEO Travis Ault tried to project calm. Everyone will be here ready for the race. Fans won't notice any difference. Problem solved. Story over. Except it wasn't. Because while the drivers, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Antonelli, were never in Bahrain, over 100 of the most specialized personnel in the sport were. Simulation engineers, tire analysts, garage crew who understand every sensor on a 2026 car. And Pirelli's cancellation didn't just scrap mileage. It froze critical information flow days before freight headed to Australia. In a regulation cycle as sensitive as 2026, 2 lost days of wet compound data creates uncertainty teams genuinely fear. Not inconvenience, uncertainty. And this is where the story gets darker. The U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, one of the installations directly struck by Iranian missiles, sits roughly 20 miles from the Bahrain International Circuit. 20 miles. And Bahrain's Grand Prix is scheduled for April 12th. Saudi Arabia follows 1 week later, April 19th. Formula One released a carefully worded statement. Our next 3 races are in Australia, China, and Japan, not in the Middle East. As always, we closely monitor any situation like this. Measured, professional, but read between the lines. They didn't say Bahrain was safe. They said Bahrain wasn't yet their problem. FIA President Mohammed bin Sulaim went further, posting, "Dialogue and the protection of civilians must remain priorities," a motorsport president speaking the language of diplomacy. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps vowed strikes would continue relentlessly until the enemy is decisively defeated. Their armed forces spokesman added that any base used to facilitate the offensive is, quote, a legitimate target. The base 20 miles from the F1 circuit, a legitimate target. Sky Sports F1 reporter Craig Slater revealed what's really happening behind closed doors. They won't make any knee-jerk reaction. Maybe there could be an amelioration, a ceasefire, a de-escalation, but they've shown they can be adaptable and fluid with the calendar. Adaptable. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting right now. Here's what's really at stake, and it goes far beyond a race weekend. First, the teams. Every team on the grid carries Middle Eastern investment, Aramco, Gulf sponsors, regional partnerships worth hundreds of millions. One of Aramco's main refineries was already hit, just 40 kilometers from where Aston Martin held their launch event last month. Canceling Bahrain isn't just a safety call, it's a financial earthquake. Second, the championship. The WEC already blinked. Qatar's opening round postponed indefinitely. 13 former F1 drivers affected overnight. When a sister series cancels, the pressure on Formula One multiplies instantly. Third, the precedent. Cast your mind back to Saudi Arabia 2022. A Houthi missile struck an oil facility visible from the circuit. Black smoke drifted across the track during practice. Drivers held emergency meetings lasting 4.5 hours, and according to reports, they were warned of consequences if they refused to race, including potentially being denied exit visas. That was a regional overspill, a civil war's echo. This is a full international military conflict. The scale is incomparable, and the decision this time cannot be pressured the same way. This wasn't just a tire test cancellation, it was a warning. Scenario 1. Diplomacy works. A ceasefire emerges within weeks. Airspace reopens. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia proceed, and Formula One calls it composure under pressure. Scenario 2. The conflict drags on. F1 reshuffles Bahrain and Saudi into May's 3-week gap, delaying the inevitable, buying time, satisfying Middle Eastern investors while keeping personnel safe. But compress that calendar further and the entire second half of the season fractures. Scenario 3. No resolution comes. April arrives with missiles still flying. Formula One faces the hardest choice in its modern history, and the sport that once raced through a pandemic has to decide whether a war zone is where it draws the line. Because Middle Eastern money built modern Formula One, but no check covers a missile strike. Will Formula One race 20 miles from an active military target? Or will the sport that survived a pandemic finally meet the conflict it cannot outrun? One thing is already certain. The 2026 championship isn't just being decided by lap times. It's being decided in emergency meetings, closed airspaces, and government war rooms. So tell me, who's really pulling the strings when Formula One goes to war?